Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Normal Nerd Show, the place where I discuss some of your favorite anime and manga, review live action anime and movies, and American comics and cartoons as well, and so much more. I am your host, the one, the only, Mr. A. Now in today's episode, we're going to be doing what I like to call Mr. A's Top 10 List. And it's my own personal list where I rank some of my favorite anime characters from lowest to highest, with 10 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. And sometimes 10 can be a good thing and 1 can be a bad thing. It really just depends on the list. Now in today's Top 10 list, we're going to be ranking off who I feel are some of the worst dads in animation. And this will include both Japanese anime and American cartoons as well. Because on this channel, I show all cartoons love, not just anime. Now starting with number 10, we have Son Goku from the legendary anime series Dragon Ball Z. Now in the world of Dragon Ball Z, Goku is an extremely powerful martial artist who has achieved demigod status, but despite his amazing power, Goku is still a very humble, fun-loving guy who loves to eat. But even though he has all these great qualities, even Goku has his failings, especially as a parent. And it was put on full display during the Cell games when, after the amazing display of martial prowess against Cell, Goku decided to bow out his fight against Cell and turn things over to his son Gohan, which took everyone by surprise. Now Goku did this because he believed that Gohan's hidden potential would be more than enough to defeat the android Cell, because he knew that it would even surpass even him and Cell combined. Now this was true, Gohan's potential did eventually defeat Cell, but before that happened, Goku really hammed it up to Cell about how strong Gohan could be, and Cell, having Saiyan DNA, was intrigued at the opportunity to fight a really strong opponent, so he decided to help Gohan reach his full potential by beating the ever-loving shit out of the poor boy, and also putting him through some serious psychological torture that really pushed Gohan to the limit. Also, I forgot to mention, Goku gave Cell a Senzu Bean, and those unaware what Senzu Beans are, Senzu Beans are basically magic beans that the moment you eat one, you are recovered to full health, no problem, no fatigue. Which honestly, when you think about it, Senzu Beans will come really handy in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. But that's a topic for a whole nother video, so moving on. So yeah, Goku gave Cell a Senzu Bean because he wanted to be a fair fight, which in the grand scheme of things did not help Gohan one bit because, like I said, that ass whooping was epic. But yeah, Goku, great guy, awesome hero, but as a father, yeah, he's seriously lacking in that area. Now moving on to our number 9, we have none other than Greg Universe from the hit American cartoon series Steven Universe. Now Greg is the father of our main character Steven. Greg is a great dad in some respects because he loves his son Steven with all his heart, and throughout the series Greg has shown to be one of Steven's biggest supporters, not to mention one of his biggest influences, especially when it comes to the realm of music or where Steven expresses himself creatively, period. And I give Greg his props, he is a great dad in that respect. But Greg has some serious failings of that as well. To start things off, he turned over his parentalship to the Crystal Gems when he found out that his son Steven had magic. And that's because good old Greg is terrified of magic. Which makes you go like, dude, you married a 7-foot tall giant magic woman. You didn't think that was a possibility when you decided to jump in the sheets with her? Clearly she worked a different type of magic on you, Greg, because you clearly didn't think that one through. And as a result of turning his son's guardianship over to the Crystal Gems, Steven did not have the most normal upbringing. For one, he never went to school, which explains why he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's also never been to a doctor, which is really messed up because he's never been vaccinated for anything, so who knows what he might be exposed to that could potentially kill him. And yes, Steven is half Crystal Gem, but at the same time, Steven is mostly human as we've seen before. Steven can get sick and die, and the fact he's not had any type of vaccinations or seen a doctor before makes it like, Greg, what the hell, man? Are you really that afraid? Imagine you want to think about your kid's safety? Like, get over it, bro. Get over it. But Greg's biggest hiccup as a father came about when we found out that he had been lying to Steven for all these years about his true identity. You see, Greg's last name is not actually Universe, it's actually DeMeo. To make things short, you see, when Greg was a teenager, he had a bit of a rebellious streak, and he had dreams of becoming a popular rock star one day. But his parents were very conservative and they didn't approve his rock star ambitions, so they tried their best to dissuade him from it, only for him to become more rebellious. And after he finished high school, he decided the time to become a rock star was now. So he ran away from home, changed his last name to Mr. Universe, and decided he was going to hit the road and become a legendary rock star. But things didn't go as planned because he met Rose in the Crystal Gems, him and Rose fell in love, and bada bing bada boom, Steven was born a year later pretty much. And all this was brought to our attention twice. The first time was when we met Greg's cousin Andy in the series, and he was shocked to meet Steven because he didn't know anything about Steven, nor did he know that Greg had got married. He just knew Greg had ran away one day and no one seen him since. The second time is brought was when Greg decides he's going to take Steven on a father-son road trip to help him basically de-stress from all the pressure of being the leader of the new homeworld Crystal Gems. And along the way, they stop by Greg's parents' place. Well, I should say they broke into Greg's parents' place just to get a couple things. This is where the truth is revealed to Steven, and he did not take it well at all. Him and Greg would have a fight, and the two have a falling out as a result. But as I said before, Greg truly loves his son Steven, and when Steven has become a monster after having a psychological breakdown, he along with the Crystal Gems gathered together and were able to calm him down, bringing him back to normal. And Steven and Greg would decide to put the past behind them for good, moving forward to a better tomorrow. And all that's well ends well. But yeah, folks, that's Greg Universe. Definitely not one of the best dads in the world, but at the same time, you can't deny he loves his son Steven. But moving on, we have Gabriel Agreste from Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir. Now in the show, Gabriel is the villain Hawkmoth. He's also the father of Adrien, aka Cat Noir. And Gabriel is a very different father than our previous two entries because, unlike Greg and Goku, Gabriel takes his job as a father very serious. He takes it so serious to the point where you can argue that he loves his son to the point where he's kind of abusive toward him. Let me explain. You see, before the show has started, Gabriel was married to his wife Emily, and her and Adrien were a happy, loving family. But unfortunately, Emily would eventually die. We don't know how she died yet, but we just know that she passed away before the story started. And as a result, Gabriel was just crushed. He was completely heartbroken because the love of his life was gone. But Gabriel wouldn't give up on Emily quite yet. Knowing about the ancient legends surrounding the Miraculouses, Gabriel decides he's going to set out and try to find all of them, looking for the Cat and Ladybug Miraculous in particular. And as a result, he would find his own butterfly Miraculous and become the villain Hawkmoth and pursue them even further. But while pursuing the Miraculouses, Gabriel had to worry about his son Adrien. And the thought of losing Adrien like he lost Emily absolutely terrified Gabriel, so he vowed to keep his son Adrien safe no matter what. And as a result, Adrien pretty much became Gabriel's prisoner. Gabriel had Adrien on a very strict schedule so he could know Adrien's whereabouts at all times. He originally didn't let him go to school like normal kids because he felt that it was too dangerous and anything could happen to Adrien. He had a bodyguard accompany Adrien everywhere to make sure that he was safe at all times. And even when Adrien was allowed to go to school finally make some friends, Gabriel didn't particularly care for any of Adrien's friends. He definitely didn't care too much for Nino, Adrien's best friend, especially after Nino dared to stand up against him for not allowing Adrien to have a birthday party. Gabriel didn't take too kind to Nino's defiance, so he abandoned him from the house for a short period of time, which was totally uncalled for if you ask me. This would be a common theme throughout the series. Gabriel would find ways to keep Adrien hanging out with his friends. He would soften up eventually, but it cannot be denied that Adrien is pretty much Gabriel's prisoner. But the worst part about all this is that, now even though Gabriel had Adrien on a short leash, he did not spend too much time with Adrien either, and this is due to a couple of reasons. The first one being that one, Gabriel owns one of the biggest fashion companies in all of France, so he's pretty busy being the CEO of a company, which Adrien happens to be a model at as well. And two, when he's not being a businessman, he's out hunting the Miraculouses as Hawkmoth. So it could pretty much be said that the only time him and Adrien get to spend time with each other is when he's either fighting him or if he's at one of Adrien's fashion shoots, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But other than that, Gabriel and Adrien don't spend too much time together. Yeah, he loves his son, but Gabriel has constantly missed many family dinners they're supposed to have together. He's constantly canceling plans with Adrien. He's even missed Adrien's birthdays a couple of times because he's so obsessed with finding his goal. And all these things combined made Adrien a very sad and lonely boy who just wants some companionship, which is why he's so excited to hang out with friends when he can. But despite all the crap that his father is sending him through, Adrien knows that his father loves him and that all his actions are coming from a place of hurt and not malice, which is why he still loves his father and is trying to be patient with him. And there have been many times that Gabriel has shown that he truly does love Adrien, and this is why the two have still remained together ever since. And that's Gabriel Agreste. But moving on, we have none other than Aang from Avatar, The Last Airbender, or should I say The Legend of Korra, because this is an adult Aang, and adult Aang only appears in The Legend of Korra. Aang is an amazing avatar, probably the greatest avatar of all time, or at least tied with Avatar Kyoshi. However, as a father, Aang has probably done one of the worst things you could probably do to a child, and that's show favoritism to another child. You see, Aang has 3 children, Kya, Bumi, and Tenzin, with Bumi being the oldest, Kya being the middle child, and Tenzin being the youngest. And out of all Aang's children, Tenzin is the only airbender, while Kya is a waterbender, and Bumi being a non-bender. Well, I mean, in the beginning he was a non-bender, but became an airbender later on in the series. But because Tenzin was an airbender from childhood, Aang took particular interest in Tenzin. Because as we all know, Aang for the longest time has been the last of the air nomads, and finally have another airbender to train and pass on the airbending line to in knowledge, Aang was more than ecstatic to start training his son Tenzin, and he spent the majority of his time with Tenzin and almost completely ignored Kaya and Bumi. And because of Aang's actions, this caused some serious strife amongst his family, especially amongst his children. You see, Kaya and Bumi would grow up resenting Tenzin because of all the attention he got from their father, and as a result, they would mockingly call him Daddy's little airbender as a way of making fun of him, a nickname Tenzin would truly hate. But vice versa, Tenzin would resent Kaya and Bumi as well because, unlike his two older siblings, Tenzin never got the opportunity to truly live his life and be himself. And in his own words, he had to grow up being the responsible one all the time because it was up to him to carry on the air nomad legacy once their father had passed on. And because of it, Tenzin was underneath a lot of pressure throughout his life, which caused him to grow up to be a very stiff and by-the-book adult. Now the issues didn't stop there. Oh no, there were more. You see, Kaya completely hated Aang and resented him for not spending any time with her or her brother Bumi, which caused a major strain on her and Aang's relationship. And out of all Aang's children, who probably had the hardest time, it definitely was Bumi, his oldest son. Because like I said before, Bumi did not have any bending abilities whatsoever, and as a result of not having any bending and being the Avatar's oldest child, he felt like he got cheated in life, and that everything Aang was doing with Tenzin, he should have been doing with Bumi because, again, he was the oldest son, but because he had no bending, he obviously couldn't do this, which resulted in him developing a severe inferiority complex that only got worse due to the amount of time Aang spent with Tenzin and not him. So yeah, Aang's actions as a father had caused some devastating effects on his children. Fortunately, the three of them will always stick together and work out their differences, but Aang's actions caused some serious emotional, psychological damage to all three of his children. So yes, Aang is without a doubt an amazing avatar, but unfortunately when it comes to being a father, he definitely dropped the ball and there's no excuse for it, absolutely none. Now the next couple of dads on this list are definitely the worst of the worst, and I mean these guys pretty much don't give two shits about their kids. Starting out with, we have the man set to claim the title for the worst father in all animation according to the internet, and that is none other than Flint, the father of Brock from Pokemon The Kanto League. Now to begin with Flint's various failings as a father, let's start with the fact that he abandoned his family to go pursue his dream of becoming a Pokemon master, but when that didn't pan out well for him, instead of going home and be with his family and make up for his mistake, he decided to become a hobo and disguise himself and sell moon rocks in order to make a living. Mind you, he did this in the exact same city that his family was residing in, which is why he also admitted that he actually saw his oldest son Brock struggle to take care of his 9 brothers and sisters on his own. And mind you, Brock is only 14 or 13 years old, and he has to help take care of a bunch of kids while maintaining a Pokemon gym. Now we don't know where Brock's mom is at this time. All we know is that she wasn't around, and it doesn't matter honestly because Flint was the catalyst for all this bullshit, so yeah, he's responsible. And the icing on the cake when it comes to Flint is that he had to rub salt in the wound by helping Ash, Pikachu, get stronger and help him beat Brock and get the Boulder Badge so he could pursue his dream of becoming a Pokemon Master. Because we all know Ash is the shittiest Pokemon trainer of all time, so good old Plot Armor has to help him go along. Flint would eventually man up and go back home so Brock can pursue his dream of becoming a Pokemon breeder alongside Ash, but at the end of the day, Flint was truly an asshole for abandoning his kids and watching his son suffer like that. Like, you're definitely the worst, bro. Now we have number 4, and believe it or not, he's worse than Flint, because it's Gene Frinks from Hunter x Hunter. Now Gene is the father of our main character, Gon, and unlike Flint, who was at least around to watch his children suffer, Gene completely kicked his kid to the curb. Like, he has not seen his son in almost 12 years, which means he hasn't seen Gon since he was born, because Gon is 12 years exactly when the show starts. So it's like, damn dude, you really did not want to be a parent. But to explain how we got to this point, apparently years ago, Gene's wife had ditched him and Gon, according to him, so he went back to his hometown of Whale Island and dropped Gon off, left him in the care of his cousin Mito and his grandmother. This is because in the world Hunter x Hunter, Gene was called a pro hunter, and being a pro hunter is a very dangerous job, so he at least had the common sense to leave his kid in a safe place where he'd be taken care of. And he didn't completely abandon Gon, he would send money back to help take care of him, but as far as seeing him, he never came to visit, he never saw Gon since the day he left from there, which is like, damn, that's some A-class parenting you're doing right there, Gene. You're really showing us men how it's done. But apparently not only is Gene a shitty dad, he's also psychic as well, because he left behind clues for his son Gon to use to find him in case he became a pro hunter and he wanted to meet him. And this gives us the whole purpose behind Gon's journey, which to me is like, so you can leave your son breadcrumbs in order to come find you, but you can't come by the island and visit every now and get them know you're still alive and go like, hey son, how you been? I know it's been a while, but here's a bunch of presents to make up for me being a shitty dad. No? Too much to ask? Yeah, I thought so. Also, I need to point out that Jing has left a sour taste in our mouths about him before he's been actually introduced into the series. Yeah, like Jing has done all this shit before we actually see him. And when he finally comes into the series, guess what? He's a bigger asshole than we originally thought he was. I mean, he's rude, he says what the fuck on his mind, doesn't care about who he offends, and he pretty much makes it clear that if it's not about him, he does not give two fucks. And it's like, jeez, who the fuck married you and had your kid? Was she as big as an asshole as you are? Because I can't understand where Gon got any of his good points from, because it clearly wasn't from either of you two motherfuckers. Just saying. But Jing's finest hours as a father had to come when Gon was in the hospital dying after sustaining some serious injuries from fighting with Neferpitou. His friends tried to get Jing to come to the hospital and see Gon because they knew he had traveled all this way to come see his father. They at least wanted Gon to see that he accomplished his goal in case the worst happened. But when they went to Jing, guess what? Jing said yeah, I'll come see him later. I'm trying to win an election for the next president of the Hunter Association right now, so I'll talk to him later. And if you were me at the time you read that, you were going like, who the fuck is this man? He cannot be Gon's dad. He just can't. Like, he's fucking horrible. Like, who the fuck says it when their kid's in the hospital dying? Like, bro, come on. Anyway, Leorio rightfully so punched the shit out of him and called him an asshole of a dad. My man Leorio, good job. Eventually he and Gon would finally meet each other and have a heart-to-heart talk with each other, but it was more like a bro talk and it felt like nothing was really accomplished. Honestly, Jing is someone who actually questions, like, why did you have kids? Because you clearly don't want them, because you don't give two fucks about them. I just don't get the man. But yeah, that's Jing Freaks. Definitely a dad worthy of being number 4 on this list. Now moving on to number 3, we have Jon Redcorn from King of the Hill, and I can just say this right now, I absolutely fucking hate Jon Redcorn. Jon Redcorn is the epitome of a deadbeat dad, and he accomplished this by first knocking up Nancy, Dale's wife, and she would eventually have her and Jon Redcorn's son Joseph, but they pretended like it was Dale's kid, even though he looked nothing like Dale. Now he and Nancy would continue their affair, but not once did Jon Redcorn have anything to do with Joseph's upbringing. He was completely raised by Dale and Nancy, and when Nancy finally broke up with Jon Redcorn, then he decided he wants to be a father to Joseph and tries to insert himself to Joseph's life, but not revealing that he's his father, only for Joseph to rebuff him and go like, dude, you're not my dad, so like, piss off. And Jon Redcorn would get angry with this and hate Dale and Nancy. It's like, dude, first off, you had sex with another man's wife. 2, you had a kid by this woman. 3, you did not raise this kid whatsoever, so what right do you have to be mad? Because you were never a father, you were a sperm donor. You've had 13 years to actually come clean to Joseph about being his father, but you felt it was more important to plow Nancy and actually be a dad. You've dug your own grave, Jon Redcorn. That's why you're number 4 on this list. Moving on to number 3 on this list, we have Fire Lord Ozai from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now it goes without saying that Ozai is just a horrible human being in general, but as a father, oh god, he's so much worse. To begin with, he constantly pitted his son Zuko and his daughter Zula against each other to build up some hated rivalry between the two so that one day the stronger of the two could become the new Fire Lord. 2, he constantly berated and looked down upon his son Zuko simply because he wasn't a psychopath like him and his daughter Zula. 3, he also permanently scarred Zuko's face when Zuko spoke up at a war council meeting, which Ozai invited him to, because he didn't like the general's idea. Little did Zuko know that the idea the general came up with was not his own, but Ozai's. Feeling butthurt about it, Ozai challenged Zuko to an Agni Kai, which is basically a firebending duel, but Zuko not wanting to fight his father because what kid wants to fight their dad. Feeling further insulted and butthurt, Ozai would attack Zuko and permanently scar his eye as a means of shaming Zuko and forever branding him a coward within the Fire Nation. And when Ozai finally became the Fire Lord, he decided he had enough of Zuko altogether and banished him from the Fire Nation and told him he couldn't come back until he found the Avatar. And this is messed up because at this time, people had thought the Avatar was gone because all the air nomads had been killed. At least we thought that until Aang showed up. So by Ozai sending Zuko on this mission, he pretty much got rid of his son, showing that he had no intention of him ever coming back. He just wanted him gone and forgotten about so he could make Azula to be his new heir, which shows you how cruel and how heartless of a person Ozai truly was. Now Ozai would eventually get his due once Aang had defeated him and took his firebending away from him, and Zuko was crowned the new Fire Lord. But even in his defeat, Ozai was still as malicious and as evil as a person he ever was, and would constantly berate and mock Zuko for being weak, even though he was locked up and Zuko was free as a bird. So yeah, Fire Lord Ozai definitely not win Father of the Year award. Now we're moving on to our our top 2 dads, and man, these guys are definitely the worst of the worst. Coming at number 2, we have Shou Tucker for Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, in the world of Full Metal Alchemist, Shou Tucker is what's known as a state alchemist, and what a state alchemist is that it's a person who has shown they have a unique or interesting control over alchemy to where the military has decided to either fund their research or have them join the military and serve the state any way they deem necessary. But amongst alchemists, there is one rule that cannot be broken. Human transmutation is forbidden, so any experiments involving alchemy in humans is completely out of the question and is punishable by death. Now, Shou Tucker is known as the Soaring Life Alchemist. Tucker was able to become a state alchemist by creating a creature called a chimera. And a chimera is basically a fusion between more than one animal, and they're actually quite common and easy to make. But what made Tucker's chimera so special is that he made one that could speak, which was unheard of at the time. Being wowed by his research, the military decided to fund his experiments so they could make more chimeras for use for military purposes. But unknown to the military, Tucker was able to achieve this by fusing his wife together with a parrot, which is why the chimera could speak. And every time trying to make a chimera without using a human, the experiments failed each time. And his constant failures have put him on the military's radar, and they were contemplating removing his state alchemy license altogether. Running out of options and running out of time, Tucker decided he was going to go for broke and fuse his daughter Nina with their pet dog Alexander. And the experiment was a success. He made a new talking chimera. But in this state, Nina was in tremendous amounts of pain. All she could talk about how much pain she was in, which is just horrible. And it just shows what type of monster Tucker really is, because what kind of man could do this to his own child just to keep his license? Like, it's ridiculous. It's not worth it in the end. But unfortunately, what was done. And Tucker's actions will be discovered by Edward Elric, the main character of the series, who had become really close to both Tucker and Nina at the time preparing for state alchemy exam. And after finding out what happened to Nina, Ed would lose his shit and attempt to beat Tucker to death for what he did, only to be calmed down by Nina, who even in her monstrous state still loved and cared about her father and didn't want Ed to hurt him, which only makes the situation so much more sadder. Now, there are 2 versions of Full Metal Alchemist, but unfortunately in both versions, Nina is killed by the alchemist killer Scar. Tucker, on the other hand, has a different fate depending on which story. In one story, he's made a slave to the homunculi, the villains of the series, while in the other, he's killed by Scar outright. But either way, Tucker has shown that he is a horrible father and a horrible person if he was willing to sacrifice his own child to keep his state alchemy license, which is why he's number 2 on this list. Now, moving on to number 1. And number 1 is the worst dad of them all. Like, this man has proved that he is the king of worst dads on this list. And number 1 is none other than the ogre, the monster, the world's most dangerous creature. It is none other than Yujiro Hama from Baki the Grappler. Now, to understand why Yujiro is the worst dad on this list, you have to understand Yujiro himself. Because Yujiro is a man who has spent his entire life dedicated to the martial arts in pursuit of absolute strength. And as a result, he has attained a strength that has made him so dangerous that not only can he take on a group of special forces by himself, he's even strong to take on giant polar bears and elephants. And he can do all this barehanded. He does not believe in the use of weapons. He says it takes the fun out of the fight. And because he's so strong, he's pretty much roamed the entire world doing whatever the fuck he wants because he knows nobody can mess with him. Even world leaders make a treaty with Yujiro each year to make it clear to him that they are no threat to him. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. But with all this strength, Yujiro has become bored because he comes to the conclusion that there's no one around that'll be able to challenge him. So instead of waiting for someone to come along, he decides he's going to make his own challenger. So he hooked up with a rich woman named Emmy, who was completely impressed by Yujiro's big dick energy, because say what you want about Yujiro, he's crazy, but at the same time, the man's charisma cannot be denied. And eventually they smash, and a year later, there's our boy Baki, the main character of the series. And from a young age, Yujiro would train Baki relentlessly in order to make sure he had the skills needed to be his challenger one day. And Baki, being the natural prodigy he is, had all the necessary skills available to him. And over the years, he grew into an amazing fighter. But to Yujiro, this wasn't enough, because Baki, though skilled, he lacked the hate, as Yujiro called it, which was the willingness and want to kill someone. So he decided to help his son get this hate. He started by first killing one of Baki's friends, the Beast of Yasha Craig, and presented his head to Baki as a way to rile him up to get him to want to fight. And when he fought Baki, completely dominated Baki and effortlessly beat him. Being unimpressed by Baki's skills, he decided to try to help him even more by attacking and nearly killing all of Baki's friends who were there to spectate the fight. Mind you, all of Baki's friends are world-class fighters themselves, and they were just being decimated by Yujiro. and when he tried to beat on Baki some more, Emi would step in and try to protect her son from Yujiro, only to have her back snap. Baki would try to get her to a hospital in order to save her life, but by the time he got there, she was pronounced dead on arrival. And this act of mindless cruelty was all it was needed for Baki to finally gain the hate he needed in order to take out Yujiro, which is exactly what Yujiro wanted. Because at the end of the day, Yujiro has no true love for Baki. He sees him as a means to the end. All his life, Yujiro's wanted to face the ultimate opponent, and now he's found it in Baki. And for most of the series, he'll pretty much sit back and watch Baki grow as a fighter, and when he finally felt Baki was ready to challenge him, they would have their epic battle. And that is why Yujiro Hama is number 1 on the worst dads in animation list. Well everyone, we've come to the end of our list. I hope you liked it. Please give this video a like if you did. Also remember to subscribe and click that bell icon down below. Also give me some comments. What did you like about the video? What didn't you like? Where can I improve so I can make better content for you in the future? And please go easy on me. It's my first video, so I know it's far from perfect. But until next time, this is Mr. A signing out. Latest.